Joe, good to see you. How you doing? Evening, Comatose, good to see you. How you doing? How's everyone doing today? Woodhouse, good to see you, brother. How you doing? How you been? How's things? Mike, good to see you. How you doing? Good day, brother. Funky brother, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? How's it going? It's going great, Woodhouse. How's it going for you? Scott, good to see you. How you doing? Happy Pisces, good to see you. How you doing? Dennis, good to see you. How you doing? We're good. How are you doing, Miles? I'm doing great. Man, Miles, I'm not first again. Wow. Scott, good to see you, brother. How you doing? Good, thanks. Let's go, Woodhouse. So, we have a lot of... Oops. I was about to drop. There we go. Camera's about to drop. So, let's do a gist of a breakdown of what we're going to go through on tonight's live show. Good evening, CMF. Funky brother. Good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Okay. So, on tonight's episode of 174 of the CMF live show, we are going to be talking about the US. In terms of Bitcoin ETF inflows, it's actually doing quite better than expected. Then we're going to go through the news topic on tonight's live show regarding Ethereum, introducing the Ethereum super chain. Then we're also going to go through the news topic on tonight's live show regarding Pay Network, which has decided to utilize itself into one particular cryptocurrency to then later on turn itself into a bank, a crypto bank. And I'll reveal which one it is regarding which crypto project they've chosen to become a crypto bank with when we get to that news. Then we're going to be talking about the Chicago exchange and essentially a new feature they're offering for Bitcoin futures. Then we're going to go through the news topic of VanEck. So VanEck has decided to talk about essentially a group of cryptocurrencies they believe have done the best so far. And then essentially they're looking out to see what else these particular cryptocurrencies can achieve further on. Then we're going to go through the news topic of the EU, because everybody talks about the US debt, which is a ridiculous number. The US debt is through the roof. That's guaranteed. But so is every other country's debt. So we're going to go through some other countries' debts, and maybe there is a bubble that needs to be burst at one point. When we get to that news, I'll reveal which are the top 10 countries in the most amount of debt. Then we're going to talk about Brazil on tonight's live show, and specifically regarding Brazil's CBDC, DREX, because Brazil has decided to essentially utilize DeFi into their CBDC. Now, whatever Brazil does, most likely is going to be utilized in other Western countries as well. Then we're going to go through the news topic of BRICS on tonight's live show as well, regarding Russia and China. And then we're going to go through the news topic of on tonight's live show regarding Ripple's case based on a perspective coming out of Coinbase. And then we're going to go through the news topic of Tether, because Tether has finally realized regarding USDT, they realized they can't really be left behind of the EU markets, and that Tether needs to really step up their game, either show transparency or maybe create a new stablecoin just for the EU. So those are news topics we are going to be covering on tonight's live show regarding Tether trying to get back into the EU, regarding Coinbase essentially defending Ripple, then regarding news of essentially China and Russia, Brazil CBDC, and the countries that are in debt, excluding the United States, because a lot of countries are borrowing money to each other, but everybody only talks about the US debt. So now the first topic we are going to be going through on tonight's live show is regarding Bitcoin ETFs. A perspective coming out of Bitwise and Fidelity. But before we go through that news, let's go inside a comment section first. Let's see what's going on there. And then, actually, you know what? Let's do the intro. Welcome to the CMF Live Show. If you're watching this for the first time ever, welcome to the CMF Live Show. It stands for Crypto Mouse Family. And you can tune into this live show every single night, 11:25 p.m. UK time onwards, where I talk about the most recent things that's happening around the world in terms of cryptocurrency, CBDCs, AI, politics, regulations, vital information for you to know about what's happening around the world. And then the disclaimer of this live show, as always, is not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. And we also do Q&As on this live show as well, which means if you have any questions, put them down inside the comment section, because it is a live show and we are live right now on X and YouTube. This is episode 174 of the CMF Live Show, and we also do essentially quizzes on this live show as well, so interactions between everyone, in other words, so everyone gets involved in the quizzes. It's something new that we're offering. It's a new feature that I'm doing. So let's go to the comment section first before we go through the first news topic, which is regarding Bitwise and Fidelity. But before we go through that, let's go to the comment section. And once again, if you are new, welcome to the CMF live show. If you're regular, let's go CMF. And thank you so much to everyone that's retweeting this live show right now at the beginning on X. Thanks so much to everyone that's retweeting and also liking the live show right now on X as well. Thank you so much. And thanks so much to everyone on YouTube who's watching right now who's also liking the live show right at the beginning. Thank you to everyone. So, any XRP news today? Yes, towards the end, we're going to go through that news. Good evening, sir. Frankie Button. Let's go. XRP news towards the end. My first answer to your first quiz is XRP. Let's go, Mike. Camel, good to see you, brother. How you doing? Hello, family. If you do not mind, please share the live. Let's go, Scott. Thanks so much for saying that. Hi. When you think bull run is going to happen? Well, right now we're stuck in some manipulation, corruption, regulation type of situation. So if this overpasses quicker, then we can reach that target quicker. If you do not mind, please share the live. Let's go, Scott. Grand Rising. Ray, good to see you as well. How you doing? Good evening, Miles of CMF. Orphan, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? What's up? You look like... Okay, I mean, this person is just... I know you get mad when somebody calls you... Okay, but you can't anymore because it's blocked you. Hi, Miles of CMF. George, good to see you as well. How you doing? Good evening, Miles of CMF. How are you doing? Miles, Callie, I'm doing great. Block this one. I already did. It's gone. So, first news on tonight's live show is regarding Bitwise and Fidelity. So let's go through it. The US spot Bitcoin ETFs record is, it's actually, they're bringing in quite a lot of inflow, even though the markets might be a bit stifled. In terms of Bitcoin ETFs, a lot of money is still pouring in. For example, record highs coming in again for Bitcoin ETFs. $25.6 million just came in through October 4th. So in other words, yesterday. It was data that was released from Bitwise and Fidelity today. The US spot Bitcoin ETFs record net inflows of $25.6 million coming in, led by Bitwise and Fidelity. ETFs witnessed a significant net inflow of $25.6 million. According to data from Farsight Investors, the inflows were driven primarily by Bitwise's BitB, their ticker in other words, which recorded the largest inflows of $15.3 million, followed by Fidelity's FBTC with $13.6 million. ARK Investors, ARKB, and VanEck Hold both registering near $5.3 million. In contrast, Grayscale essentially saw a net outflow, as usual, of $13.9 million, making it the only major ETF to experience a negative flow on that particular day. Other ETFs did not see any notable changes in net inflows or outflows. Bitwise's BitTB led the market with $15.3 million in net inflows, reflecting a growing confidence in its strategy for tracking spot Bitcoin prices. Fidelity's FBTC followed closely with $13.6 million, demonstrating strong investor interest in Bitcoin ETFs offered by traditional financial institutions. ARK Investors, ARKB, and VanEck Hold both recorded $5.3 million net inflows, further highlighting the broader investor demand for Bitcoin exposure. And Grayscale, as usual, the traditionally being the major player in the Bitcoin ETF space, faced $13.9 million of net outflows, signaling a potential shift in investor preference as newer ETFs gain traction. That is not the real reason why Grayscale has the most amount of net outflows. It's mostly because Grayscale is offering the highest fees compared to BlackRock and everybody else around them regarding Bitcoin ETFs. The latest net inflows indicate a growing appetite for Bitcoin ETFs still till this day, as more institutions and retail investors gain exposure to Bitcoin's price movements without directly holding the cryptocurrency itself. The performance of Bitwise, Fidelity, and ARK Invest ETFs suggests a shift in market sentiments towards a newer, more dynamic Bitcoin offerings, with spot ETFs becoming the preferred vehicle for gaining exposure. The $13.9 million of outflows from Grayscale GBTC could reflect a growing preference of a more liquid and straightforward Bitcoin ETFs, particularly those structured around spot prices. As newer ETFs will lower the fees and better liquidity enter the markets, GBTC traditional appeal may be weighing itself down, leading to increased outflows in favor of alternative products. The net inflows of $25.6 million into US spot Bitcoin ETFs on October 4th highlights the sustained demand still for Bitcoin exposures via ETFs. With Bitwise and Fidelity leading the charge, investors are showing increasing confidence inside the spot ETF market space. So, even though the markets might be down slightly, or stifled or stagnant in some cases, there's still inflows coming in for Bitcoin ETFs. Now, the reason you might not see those massive gains coming into Bitcoin and so on, it's mainly to do with the outflows. So there is outflows on one side happening, but there's inflows coming in from institutions. So while the retail section and some institutions exit Bitcoin, their positions, on the other side, we have Bitcoin ETF coming in terms of inflows. So that's why you don't see massive changes in prices, because as some investors leaves, other investors join in, and those investors pretty much buy the gap. Now, what we're going to talk about next is Ethereum, because Ethereum has decided to launch something they're calling the super chain, is what they're naming it. And apparently this super chain is going to make Ethereum 10 times better as an ecosystem. But before we go through that, let's go to the comment section first. And if you're holding Ethereum, this could be good news for you. If you're holding Ethereum, they're essentially releasing the update of the super chain on Ethereum. But before we go through that, let's go to the comment section first. It's gone. Yeah, sorry, Miles. I didn't see that kid on my side. Otherwise, would have removed them. No problem, Woodhouse. Hi, Miles. Messi, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Hi, Miles, and good evening to all CMF. JP, good to see you as well, brother. How you doing? What is Link ETF? When is Link ETF? Well, there's a lot of ETFs in line. I mean, there's a Solana ETF that's supposed to be happening, an XRP ETF, Chainlink ETF, or AVAX ETF. There's a lot of ETFs right now standing in line to be able to be happening. So when is Chainlink ETFs going to happen? Well, once Gary Gensler probably loses his job. And Gary Gensler is a very difficult man to get a yes out of. I mean, as I revealed a while ago, the same day Gary Gensler appealed the XRP case was the same day he was being haggard by Congress for Congress telling him he's a useless person and his job. And then Gary Gensler goes back to the office and appeals the XRP case. So it's very difficult to get a yes out of Gary Gensler. So if you're expecting a Chainlink ETF, you have a higher chance of getting a Chainlink ETF outside of the United States market space. So maybe Hong Kong could come out with a Chainlink ETF, or Brazil. Brazil has a Solana ETF, for example. But getting inside the United States is not possible. Knowing Gary Gensler, squeezing a yes out of that man for something positive, it's never going to happen. But you have a higher chance outside of the United States for a Chainlink ETF rather than inside, while Gary Gensler still holds his job at the SEC chairman. Will it make ETH cheaper? Regarding Ethereum's super chain update that's coming to their mainnet, would it make Ethereum cheaper? No. It's going to make Ethereum faster, apparently. It's going to make Ethereum easier to build upon, which could bring a lot more developers on board. Good evening, Miles of CMF. Well, XRP, good to see you. How you doing? Free and Forever, good to see you. How you doing? XRP XLM will use UDPN. Now, Ethereum's new superchain, ERC20 design, a game changer for cross-border chain interoperabilities. Ethereum's infrastructure keeps changing as developers try to boost the ecosystem scalability and cross-chain abilities. A new update from the Ethereum Optimize, essentially GitHub, has basically brought in new fresh ideas to help Ethereum developers to expand on the Ethereum ecosystem. The Superchain ERC20 and the iCrosschain ERC20 redesign. This change is a big step to make Ethereum's ecosystem more connected and flexible, making it more attractive in the growing blockchain layer 2 solutions world. This key change involves making send ERC20 and relay essentially ERC20 functions to a superchain ERC20 standard, which now works with a superchain ERC20 bridge. The standout feature is new iCrosschain ERC20 interference. Developers created the interference to work across different chains and to expand to other layer 2s. The new interference lets you mint and burn ERC20 tokens across different blockchains without being stuck to one layer 2 solution. Cross-chain neutrality creates a new chances for systems to work together, allowing assets to move between various Ethereum layer 2 networks much more easier due to this update. Vitalik Buterin even decided to make a speech about this superchain ERC20. And one of the co-founders of Ethereum, Vitalik Buterin, commented on this new development and seemed very excited about how the community is willing to cooperate on different blockchains. He tweeted out saying, "I think people are sleeping on just how much Ethereum's infrastructures players are willing to cooperate and build a unified Ethereum ecosystem. His statements reveals the greatest scheme to prove or improve the Ethereum ecosystem, allowing for more interoperability between separate blockchains, which is necessary for sustained expansions and blockchain universes. Vitalik Buterin backing up highlights how crucial the redesign is, consistent with his notions that Ethereum is not just a fragmented collection of layer 2 operatings, but a coherent and interoperable system. The update has sparked debate in the community, despite the excitement coming from Vitalik Buterin. Some people think layer 2 corporations might not be essential since many projects work across chains without collaborations. Essentially, a lot of people also pointed out that the various protocols use relays and decentralized bridges to move assets between chains, hinting that a single standard might sometimes be unnecessary. Vitalik Buterin responded that while general unification might work for popular ERC20 tokens, rare ERC20 tokens, NFTs, and more complex use cases will benefit from this standardized interoperability approach with Superchain that's coming out for Ethereum. And the iCross chain ERC20 has the potential to change how assets will flow between Ethereum-based networks. It will become much more easier for developers on the Ethereum ecosystem to build the apps across multiple layer 2s, said Vitalik Buterin. The upgrade makes it easier for users to transfer between layer 2s, thereby reducing friction and making the Ethereum ecosystem a much more user-friendly place. Developers will be able to adapt this interference, which will help Ethereum's position as a leader to blockchain interoperability. Other blockchain networks may be pressured to adapt similar protocols, resulting to a more uniform and constructive decentralized ecosystem. Look, I'll be honest, what Vitalik Buterin is trying to achieve is connecting the blockchain system together, but mainly through Ethereum, which is something that the XRP Ledger wants to do. Because if we go about a year back, David Schwartz was in some sort of a podcast, and he said that the XRP Ledger is like Google, and everything will connect to it, is what he said back then. And now, fast forward to today, Ethereum, Vitalik Buterin, co-founder of Ethereum, stating that he wants to make the blockchain space more unified and that everybody works together more comfortably, and that every blockchain can easily connect to another without complicated relays and so on. So that's what he's trying to achieve with Ethereum, and they're calling it the super chain, which connects everybody together. I'll be honest, what he should have focused on, and what Ethereum should be focusing on for a very long time now, is price. Why is it so expensive to send anything on Ethereum? Has that not crossed anybody's mind? That anybody that's developing on Ethereum's chain, that has never crossed your mind why Ethereum is so expensive, and maybe we should look into it? Look, I get the picture of connecting blockchains together. Sure, why not? Even though we already have bridges in the decentralized space, but the biggest issue is price. Lower the fees, and Ethereum will be, a great place to build on. Genuinely, it's the main issue with Ethereum. It's not that it's not connected well enough. Ethereum has the biggest ecosystem inside the crypto space. I don't think connection is the biggest problem to Ethereum. I think it's price. Lower the fees. That's the biggest issue they should be working on. Now, well, Vitalik Buterin is very happy about this new feature of being able to connect blockchains much more easier together. Genuinely, we had bridges for that inside the decentralized world, but apparently this new super chain is going to make life so much more easier on Ethereum. Now, there is a blockchain or a company that's coming out that wants to create a bank for itself. Let's do a little game. Everybody guess inside the comment section right now, which blockchain has this company chosen to partner up with? There is a company that's decided to partner up with a particular blockchain to create their own bank later on. So they're going to start as a payment system to then turn into a bank, a big bank, a blockchain bank. Everybody take a guess which blockchain this bank has decided to choose to partner up with. Now, they're not a bank right now, but they're going to become a bank once they start developments on this chain. Take a guess which essentially blockchain they have chosen. Now, just to give everyone a clue, it's a crypto project I've talked about before. Take a guess, which blockchain? Everybody get involved. Even if you're watching this for the first time ever, get involved inside the comment section. It's a blockchain I've talked about before. As the clue I'll give you. Yeah, if I give you another clue, it's too easy. If I give you one more other clue, it's too easy. Okay, I'll give you another clue as well. It's not a blockchain that you hear often. Okay, it's not a blockchain that you hear often, but it's a blockchain that's new, fairly new, and has been around. It's not something I hear often. It's fairly new. It came out at the same time as Ondo. Let's see who gets it right. XRP. Is total market cap included ETF inflows? No. Not Elon Musk on stage with Trump at a big rally right now, though. Let's go. Yeah, I saw that. Miles, I don't realize CZ is actually Canadian. Moved from China, and his family is second richest in Canada. 17-some billion worth. Yep, he is. Definitely is. He's very wealthy. So everybody's guess is Camel said Ripple. Fair enough. You know, I mean, you see cross-border payments, you instantly think Ripple. Freedom Forever says Calm. Woodhouse says Ripple. Scott says Ton. Toby says Ripple. Mike says XRP. Jim says, I think they chose Sui. Fair enough. Camel says XLM. Camel says Ton. Hi, everyone. HBAR. Ripple, good to see you. How you doing? HBAR. And Hollywood. Nope, not a single person got it right. Not a single person got it right. So the question was, a particular company has decided to choose a blockchain to create a bank on. Which blockchain did this company decide to choose to build their bank on? And everybody said XRP or TON or HBAR. Okay, Demo. It's definitely not Demo. HBAR, Casper. What's up, brother Miles? Do you see the video of Brad said XRP taken over in weeks, not in months? Yes. What do I say about it? I saw one video. I think it's the same one that you saw probably. Chainlink is what Happy Pisces says. Carlos says Cosmos. Frankie, brother, I don't want to guess as you think I'm cheating again. No, go ahead. Say your guess. You're not cheating. Say your guess. And 3 guesses and still wrong. Orphan says TIA. Freedom Forever says, I meant XDC. Ah, okay. XDC is a good option as well. It's not XDC. Hi, Miles. Sorry I'm a bit late again. Hope you're well. And everyone at CMF. Let's go. Addy, how you doing? Addy, just in case you want to get involved, the question I asked is, there's a company that's chosen to go with a blockchain to build a crypto bank. Which blockchain has this company chosen to build a bank with? Which crypto project is the chosen crypto project for this company to build a bank on? What's the crypto project they've chosen? Corium is what Bill XRP says. Jim says APTOS. I get why you're saying that. Valiot. That's an interesting choice. That's a very interesting choice. Yes, about the video. What do you think about Brad? When Brad said in a matter of weeks, not months, he was talking about the Ripple stablecoin. Tron, good choice as well. Very good choice. Everyone chose good projects that make sense for cross-border payments, but none of them were correct except for one person. One person was correct. One person was correct. And that person was Orphan. He said TIA. TIA was the chosen project. Pay Network partners with Celeste, TIA, for next level scalabilities and speed, and to even develop a bank. Among the latest news within the crypto industry, Pay Network has revealed it will adapt Celeste's technology to improve scalability, a major milestone towards the formation of a highly efficient and decentralized payment system. This collaboration integrates Celeste's modular blockchain architecture to enhance the data availability and capacity of essentially Pay ZK rollups based system. Pay Network is developing a next generation stablecoin payment system and aims to become the first ever self-sovereign bank. Using the ZK essentially rollups and their new partner with Celeste, where updated transaction data are retained on the blockchain for efficiency, Pay supports its fast and cheap transaction rates without compromising on security. Nevertheless, there are some issues with the ZK Validims rollups, especially with the data availability. This is where the rollups of Celeste comes into picture. With the integration with TIA, Pay can protect itself and other nodes from stalling validators as well as an open path to a better scalability and more stable decentralized application on the network. For blockchain data availability, Celeste brings a special solution that is different from all other blockchains. It organizes itself in a modular way, separating execution, consensus, and data availability in order to achieve a higher speed. Recently, also, Celeste shared its roadmaps on how it plans to increase its block sizes to go as high as 1 gigabytes to improve transactions per speed. While this might surpass Visa's TPC rate of 24,000 essentially per second, while Pay is built to support the payment stack of several millions of users, this level of scalability will foster an entirely new category of applications like fully on-chain games and verifiable web essentially applications as well. The move to decentralized data availability layer enables the Pay network to open up an expansion of opportunities to developers who wish to build on Celeste network. Celeste data availability sampling technology allows users to perform an activity with the latest possible resources, utilizing therefore means of lightweight nodes. This makes it possible for the network to accommodate a huge volume of transactions as it strives for efficiency and high security. Consumers will be able to run their dApps on a higher throughput environment than before, which will make it more complex and faster. In conclusion, Pay Network's integration with Celeste means a leap forward in blockchain scalability and decentralized finance. When it integrates, the two projects are poised to overhaul the existing possibilities regarding blockchain-based payments and decentralized applications. So, TIA was the chosen project for a bank to be developed on it later on. Now, TIA was a project that I revealed when TIA first launched itself last year, I think it was exactly. But yeah, when TIA released itself, I was the first one to release that information on this live show a while ago. But now they have a new partner, Pay Network. They're going to be developing on the TIA network, and sooner or later creating an entire banking system on TIA. And one person got the answer correct, which was Orphan. Well done, Orphan. Everybody else chose XRP, HBAR, XDC, DOT, Render, Link, Tron, and TON, and AP2S, which they're all great. I mean, some of them made sense for cross-border. I mean, you hear banks and cross-border payments, you instantly think XRP, XLM, XDC, HBAR, and so on. So it makes sense why everybody said those. One person got it right, TIA. Yes, there will be utility in weeks on our USD. Yes, that's true. AVAX. ATPOS is doing good things. Yes, it is. AP2S is doing great things, to be fairly honest. Now, what we're going to talk about next is the Chicago markets. So, CME, the CME group has essentially decided to introduce a new feature for Bitcoin to ramp up some more investors coming in from Wall Street and so on. CME Group introduces Bitcoin Fridays, which they're calling Friday Futures, for enhanced risk management. Bitcoin Friday Futures, a new physical Bitcoin commodity launched by the CME Group, meets the growing demand of traders and investors looking for new ways to obtain exposure to Bitcoin. The BFF, essentially the Bitcoin Friday Futures, they're calling it the BFF. The BFF is designed to provide a flexible risk management and smaller capital requirements for market participants. The BFF has its fractional Bitcoin exposure, where each contract essentially equals to 1/5 of a Bitcoin. Traders can participate in cryptocurrencies without acquiring an entire Bitcoin, making it easier to stay up with the market's movements. Furthermore, the BFF contracts are cash settled and expire on Fridays, improving capital efficiency and risk management. Bitcoin Friday Futures offers several advantages over traditional futures contracts. Besides their shorter dated structures, they allow for smaller contract sizes and fractional Bitcoin exposures. This provides traders with the opportunity to optimize their positions based on market conditions. Moreover, BFF contracts can be tailored to fit specific risk appetites, giving traders more flexibility in managing their portfolios. Additionally, BFF contracts settle based on the CME CF Bitcoin reference rate New York as well, a trusted benchmark used in 6 out of 10 spot Bitcoin ETFs. This ensures transparency and credibility in trading activities. This is going to bring a lot more users in for essentially Bitcoin ETFs in terms of institutional investors rather retail, but they all, the institutions are the ones that have the money. So this is going to bring a lot more Wall Street people into Bitcoin ETFs. A lot more high-profile investors, let's just say. Significantly, traders only need to post a margin deposit rather than fully funding their positions up front. Bitcoin Friday's futures caters to the needs of both individuals and institutionals, but let's just be honest, it's just institutions coming in, Wall Street heads. Their shorter duration allows traders to adjust their positions promptly, responding to events like global interest rate decisions or geopolitical, essentially, shifts. The BFF contracts can closely track Bitcoin spot prices, making them an attractive alternative for those seeking capital efficiency. Moreover, with a smaller financial commitment required, BFF offers a greater accessibility to traders at various investment levels. This makes it easier for investors to structure their portfolios for short-term catalysts and could impact the price of Bitcoin. So, because the markets are becoming quite volatile with the, essentially a war breaking out in the Middle East once again, or essentially the geopolitical tensions or countries being in debt or the real estate market being on the verge of a crash in China and France, for example, there's a lot of things happening around the world that definitely impact the market space, especially the crypto space. The stock market is volatile, but the crypto market, the moment anything happens around the world, it becomes the most volatile place to be in. But it also makes it a great place to make a lot of money if you know what you're doing. If high tensions are rising in the Middle East, you put a short down because you know what's about to be happening next inside the crypto space. But, essentially, they're introducing a new feature called Bitcoin Friday futures. Because the market is so volatile, at least people who are trading on traditional market spaces rather than Coinbase and, Binance and Crypto.com, normal investors that are coming out of Wall Street don't really sign up to Binance. They more likely prefer to do on the CME. So by doing it on that, they can also get involved in some sort of a new feature for Bitcoin futures. Why is this a positive for the rest of us inside the crypto system? Well, it brings more people inside the Bitcoin space, which brings more people, investors, in other words, into the actual crypto space as well. So it's good news in the long term, but interesting features they're introducing right now. I mean, yesterday we talked about the rotation ETF, which rotates from Bitcoin ETFs and Ethereum ETFs to US Treasury bonds. It's technically the first ever ETF bot that's coming out. Essentially, was announced yesterday. And then now today we have the Bitcoin Friday futures. They're calling it a BFF. It's very interesting features that are coming out to get more investors coming inside the crypto space. And, it shows that there's some interest. If they're thinking about creating new IDs and new functions, then that means there is interest in cryptocurrencies from Wall Street, which is great news. Now, moving off, essentially BFF or Bitcoin Friday futures to VanEck. VanEck has came out with some sort of a study report on 3 crypto projects they believe have performed the best. And they're going to be doing even better moving forward. Take a guess inside the comment section. Which crypto projects VanEck has chosen as doing the best this year and moving forward? Inside the comment section right now. Even if you're new, you're watching this for the first time ever, get involved inside the comment section right now. Don't be shy. Just throw some cryptos out there. Let's see if you get it right. Take a guess of 3 crypto projects that VanEck has decided to put in their study report that they've released today, by the way, of they believe have done the best so far in 2024, so far. And it's going to do the best moving forward. Just 3 crypto projects, just throw them out there. Also, to put in perspective, VanEck did also said 1 crypto project did horrendous. So VanEck said 3 crypto projects did excellent and 1 crypto project did horrendous. So take a guess on 4 crypto projects. Take a guess on 3 crypto projects that did excellent this year and 1 crypto project that did horrendous this year. Go for it. Let's see what everyone comes out with inside the comment section. Hello, Miles. Hope you're well. Zach, good to see you as well. How you doing? And this is a perspective from VanEck. Wall Street see a new way to make money. Basically, yeah, for the BFF, pretty much. 3 crypto projects, which you believe that VanEck has put as the best performers of this year, and 1 crypto project which did horrendous this year. Okay, I'm going to give you a clue as well, because it might be a little bit okay. It's not the typical crypto projects. It's not your typical crypto projects. Scott says XDC, XLM, ACH. Great choices, but that's not what's on the list. Camel says Bitcoin, AVAX, and XRPs. Interesting choices as well. Very good, but not on the list. Bull XRP says XRP, XLM, XDC. Excellent tokens, but not on the list. VanEck has chosen projects that I think might be too difficult for some people, for majority of everyone to get. One of them, I think, will be easy for everyone to guess, but the rest might be a little bit difficult. So, VanEck picks Solana, APTOS, and SUI. And they're calling it Ton, Ondo, ACH. No. Rendo, Solano, XLM. Mike got one right. It has to be XLM. It has to be XRP, XLM, and I hope ACH. And horrendous one is ICP. Horrendous one is ICP. Sol, SUI, APTOS. Yeah. Okay, I've revealed to you which one of the three choices they said is the best this year, but I still haven't told you which one they chose as the worst performer of this year. So take a guess of which one is going to be the worst performance while I tell you which ones are the best performance. Ton, Ondo, ACH, it has to be XRP, XRP, no? So, Sui, it always, yep, Sui, Ondo, Solana for sure, yep. Hi, bro. How you doing? Hi, bro. How are you? I'm from IN. Where are you from? Can you speak slowly, please? Yes, I can. I can slow it down if you want. Originally, I'm Persian, so Iranian, in other words, and but UK, London. I could talk a little bit slower for you, no problem. So, VanEck picks Solana, APTOS, and SUI as the best performers of this year, and they're calling it the monolithic blockchain shine. VanEck's latest crypto monthly report highlights the impressive performance of monolithic blockchains in September, and before that as well. These projects include Solana, APTOS, and SUI, stood out with significant price increases, capturing the attention of investors and blockchain enthusiasts alike. According to VanEck, Solana gained 14%, SUI surged by 118% just last month, and APTOS saw 23% rise in the value during just September. This strong performance has renowned confidence in the future potential of monolithic blockchains. Networks that combine different layers into a unified structure are massively a gain. SUI's massive 118% price increase was linked to a 140% rise in the daily activity addresses, pushing its market cap to $5 billion. The low transaction cost and fast processing times make SUI essentially an appealing option for new users flooding into the ecosystem. VanEck emphasized that SUI's success stems from its monolithic structure, which merges as transaction layers into one system, delivering higher transaction throughputs and lower cost. This design is especially beneficial for applications like NFT minting and small payments, where speed and cost efficiency are completely crucial. APTOS caught the market's attention in September with its Raptor software update, which led a 30% rise in daily activity addresses. This update expanded APTOS's user base, showcasing the growing interest in its technological advancements. Following the update, APTOS price climbed 23%, proving that innovations within the network can directly influence the market value. VanEck's report essentially underlined APTOS' appeal, particularly within the DeFi and NFT platforms, due to its user-friendly and efficient infrastructure. Solana recorded essentially a 14% increase just in September, counting its trend as a high-speed, low-transaction cost throughout 2024. The network's vertically integrated structure, often compared to Apple's Mac OS, combines software and hardware components, enabling greater efficiency and scalability. VanEck just compared Solano's ecosystem to Mac OS. This makes Solano an ideal platform for small payments, tokenizations, and NFT minting as well. VanEck's previous reports also highlighted that Solano's structure could challenge Ethereum's dominance in the blockchain space, is what VanEck said. Essentially, with Ethereum, the crypto project that was, in their perspective, the worst performers was Ethereum. VanEck did a report today that they released essentially, and they said that, Solano is great, EP2S is great, Sui is great. Now, these three crypto projects is what surprised VanEck, just to put in perspective as well. So VanEck was, essentially surprised that Solano was so excellent throughout this whole year, climbing the ranks, and how Sui did quite well for itself as well, and how EP2S did great for itself as well. Now, they could have said the usual report, Bitcoin is doing good and so on and so on, but they decided to go a different route and name some other crypto projects, which they decided to choose Solano, EP2S, and essentially Sui, which in their eyes, they were shocked and surprised of how well they did. Now, on the other hand, they said that the worst performer in their own eyes was Ethereum. They said that Ethereum didn't do what they expected Ethereum to do this year, especially with the ETF coming in to push some institutional money into Ethereum, and that never happened. So, in their report of praising Solano, Sui, and AP2S, they did a negative report on Ethereum. Again, not my perspective in any sort of a way. This is VanEck's perspective. With Ethereum struggling with high transaction costs and scalability issues, newer monolithic blockchains like Solano, Sui, and AP2S are attracting users seeking essentially more cost-effective solutions. These projects are chipping away at Ethereum's market share, offering a higher transaction for output at a lower cost, which is especially appealing for DeFi, NFT, and micropayment users. As the competition heats up, Ethereum's price fell 12% in early October, trading below its 200 essentially day moving average. The rise of monolithic blockchains has led to a decrease in Ethereum usage, with investors and users turning to more scalable alternatives like Solano and Sui. If Ethereum hopes to retain its market leadership, it will need to address transaction speed and cost issues. The future of monolithic blockchains. As VanEck report shows, monolithic blockchains like Solano, Sui, and AP2S are setting to play a key role in the future of blockchain ecosystems. Their ability to offer high transactions throughout put a lower cost makes them strong competitors against Ethereum. Unless Ethereum addresses its scalability and cost challenges, these projects will continue to gain traction in the coming years. So, this is a perspective coming from VanEck. And VanEck has basically said Solano, AP2S, and Sui, excellent. This year, they were surprised. And Ethereum, they were not so surprised also. Ethereum did horrendous in their opinion. Even with the ETFs coming out, didn't do much for Ethereum. And I can explain why as well. But before I do that, Glenda, thank you so much for the $100 donation straight into the startup, the CMF hedge fund. Absolutely amazing. Glenda, thank you so much for the $100 donation on YouTube. Absolutely amazing. Thank you. Goes straight into the startup for the CMF hedge fund. Mouse, I guessed all three correct and the worst coin. Let's go, funky brother. Ethereum has to be the worst, yeah. As a whole, as I hold a big bag of Ethereum and XRP. Let's go. Hi, Mouse and CMF. Glenda, good to see you as well. How you doing? Thank you for the donation, honestly. Can you tell me about EGP coin, please? You can direct message me. To be fairly honest, I don't know what the recent developments of EGP coin is. If you direct message me, I can take a look into it, give you a perspective, no problem. I don't charge any money. I don't charge any money whatsoever, so I'm completely free of source if you want to do that. JP, where's all your answers? Look. Glenda, well done, girl. I well appreciated. Is AP2S worth looking into for an investment? AP2S is definitely worth looking into, is what I would say. I'm not going to tell you to go and invest into something, and you should never invest into anything that you don't understand. So, but AP2S is worth looking into. So is Sui, to be fairly honest. They're also launching a gaming console as well coming out from Sui, which was introduced in South Korean Blockchain Week about a few weeks back. But look, VanEck is not the only one that's for now criticizing Ethereum's movements. 2 nights ago, JP Morgan also released a report as well. And even yesterday, I revealed another report. Nicholas, the analyst from JP Morgan, came out and said that Ethereum is also a horrendous performer. And they were expecting more from Ethereum. And a few nights ago, Goldman Sachs even came out as well, and JP Morgan again, and they even said that there's no impulse of growth in Ethereum whatsoever. I'll be honest, Gary Gensler approving Ethereum ETFs was actually a terrible idea. And let me clarify what I mean by that. Regarding an Ethereum ETF, is an excellent idea. It's the way Gary Gensler executed the Ethereum ETF. You see, people who went for the Bitcoin ETF inside of Wall Street, or any institutions that went for them for Bitcoin ETFs, is because they were excited. You know, Wall Street was excited for the first time to enter into a Bitcoin ETF. They were excited to enter into the blockchain space, tiptoe into the blockchain space with a Bitcoin ETF. So for Ethereum ETFs to come out, they had to come out with something interesting. And just the token itself was a bad idea. You see, Ethereum has something that's quite great about it, which is staking. If essentially they introduced, if Gary Gensler approved this, if he approved Ethereum staking with the Ethereum ETFs, that would have attracted a lot of investors towards Ethereum ETFs. But because Gary Gensler took away the staking part of Ethereum and just said, here's your Ethereum ETF, everyone on Wall Street said, nah, I'll still go for the Bitcoin ETF. So it wasn't the greatest idea for Ethereum ETFs to be approved if they're going to be approved like this. Because as an investor, you can just buy Ethereum, normal Ethereum, and stake it. You can also buy Bitcoin and stake it as well, to be very honest. But as a normal investor, you just buy Ethereum and stake it. Why buy Ethereum ETF? So Ethereum's essentially, superpower in this scenario was staking. And Gary Gensler took that away from Ethereum. So maybe the best thing wasn't, essentially Gary Gensler approving Ethereum ETFs. And he did it so quickly as well. Turned out more of a downfall than an upside. But yeah, genuinely, investors on Wall Street just didn't see the point of it. They thought, I can have Ethereum ETF or a Bitcoin ETF. Bitcoin ETF it is. And everybody on Wall Street has a lot of money. These high profile, clients that are coming in and buying Bitcoin ETFs, they have a lot of money to play around with. So Bitcoin at $60,000 is not really expensive for these people. But Ethereum having staking capabilities is appealing. So, and also there's the other side as well, Grayscale dumping on the market every time they get a chance with Ethereum. But now, moving off VanEck's report of praising Solana, APTOS, and SUI, and saying Ethereum is horrendous, to the rest of the world. Everybody inside the crypto space talks about the American debt, the US debt. It's through the roof, which it is. I agree 100%. America has too much debt. But you've also got to understand that America borrows a lot of money to a lot of countries. America borrows money to Europe. America borrows money to Africa. They borrow money to a lot of countries around the world, to the Asian continent. It's actually countries in Asia, countries in the Middle East, countries in Europe, and so on. So everybody owes money to America, and everybody looks at America's debt. But what about the rest of the countries? How much debt is the rest of the Western countries in? Because it's not just the United States that has one big bubble that might burst somewhere down the road regarding the US debt, but other countries in Europe have a lot of debt too. So right now, we have a report that's just came out today. Excluding the US debt, what about the rest of the debts in Europe? So we have a list of countries of who have had the most amount of debt and still have a debt climbing. And by the way, these European countries, if their debts get any bigger, their bubble's going to burst, and we can see probably a few markets in the EU space go down. But before I give you the list of, there's only 10 on the list. But before I give you a list, anybody want to take a guess on the top 3 countries in debt in the EU? Right now, inside the comment section, take a guess of the top 3 countries in the EU with the highest debt. And if their debt gets any bigger, their bubbles will also burst. And if their bubbles burst, their markets go down. If their markets go down, it impacts the stock market and the crypto market. So if the EU market space bubble bursts, it also does impact you on crypto. So anybody take a guess on 3 European countries that you think has the highest debt? Miles, there might be a good news for Ethereum, but do you think I should sell my Ethereum, or should I wait for the bull run? Wait, I would say. Too soon. Like I said before, they all own the US money and their debt up to their necks as well. It's true. They are. They are. Anybody want to take a guess? Right now, if you watch this for the first time ever, go through the side of the comment section. If you're a CMF member, right now in the comment section, put which country do you think in the EU has the highest debt? You can name a few countries. You can name 3 countries, 2 countries, 1 country. But who do you think has the highest debt? Because everybody talks about the US debt. The US has a big debt, but nobody talks about other countries who also have massive debts. And their markets can burst and go sideways as well. Everybody saw what happened with Japan. Quite recently, we had the Japanese market space going through some turbulence. How did that impact the crypto space? Quite bad, actually. So Europe also has a massive debt problem as well. And take a guess of which countries are on top of that list of their markets could potentially go sideways as well. European countries, go for it. Who do you think is that has the biggest debt? France is what Joe said. Funky Brother said France, Germany, and Greece. Zach said Germany. G says France, UK, Greece, and Greece. Scott says UK and France. Orphan says Germany, France, and Netherlands. That's an interesting pick. Mike says UK, France, and Germany. Ripple says China. Different market space. Messi says Greece, Spain, and Germany has the highest debts. Happy Pisces says Germany has the highest debts. Spain, Germany, and Italy. Jim says those countries have the highest debts. Freedom Forever says Italy has the highest debt. Carlos says Greece, Italy, Spain, and Portugal has the highest debt. Woodhouse says India, USA, and Germany has the highest debt. Messi says Italy has the highest debt. Daniel says UK, France, and Germany has the highest debt. Joe says Turkey, Greece, and France has the highest debt. Callie says France, Belgium, Greece has the highest debt. JP says France, Germany, UK, Turkey, Spain. The list go on. Daniel says Italy has the highest debt. Okay. AP2S or Quant Miles, what is better? AP2S at this moment in time, I would have to say. And the list goes on. Let's go. So, I'm going to be revealing to you the top 10 countries with the highest debt outside of the United States in the EU space. So, here it is. Top 10 most in-debt countries in the world. But there's mostly for the European market space, but in the world in this sense. French public finance is under the spotlight as debt reaches historical heights. But where does the hexagon essentially actually stand compared to other nations? The French public debt has reached a dizzying heights of nearly 3.2 trillion euros. In the second quarter of 2024, about 112% of its GDP. A situation right now worrying experts and citizens alike in France. However, this raw figure doesn't suffice the grasp the complex reality of globals in debts. In Europe, France ranks among the most in-debt countries, but doesn't top the spot. So who's number 1 in the EU for the worst country in the debt, especially in debt? The number 1 country in the EU in debt is Greece. Greece at 171.3% has the highest debt in EU. In the EU, they have the highest debt. And again, everyone talks about America's debt. which is true. If America's markets go sideways, it impacts the market space. But if any other country in the EU goes sideways, it also goes sideways inside the crypto space as well. Japan had few turbulence, and look what happened. Greece has 171.3% in debt. Italy is ranking second with 144.4%, which shows a significantly higher ratios. Spain ranking third with 113.2%, closely follows the hexagon as well. Germany, 66.3% in the rankings. It is crucial to note that these comparisons should be nuanced. Economic structure, growth, and the capacity to raise funds and the markets differ greatly from one country to another. France, despite its high debt, it retains investors' confidence thanks to its solidify of its economy and status as the European powerhouse. Well, I'll be honest, it doesn't matter how much of a big powerhouse you think you have. If you're in massive amounts of debt, that bubble will burst eventually. And France has a big real estate market issue. About 1,200 real estates have closed down this year. Globally, the picture is even more constructed. Japan holds, if we look at it from a global perspective now, actually, you know what? From a global perspective, excluding the United States, who do you think has the highest debt? From a global perspective now. So EU perspective, some people got it right. Some people said Germany, which was ranking fourth. But some people said Greece, which was ranking number one as the worst countries in debt in the EU. France was also on the list. Germany was on the list. Greece was. A lot of people got the answer correct, to be fairly honest. Which countries do you think has the highest debts globally, excluding the United States? Because that's an easy choice. Because again, the reason I'm sharing this is because everybody talks about the US debt, which is a big issue. But every country is in pretty much huge amounts of debt. So this is bringing attention to other countries in debt as well, which are being overshadowed by the US as well. Which countries globally do you think have the worst amount of debt? Messi says, I was right on the 4 countries. You were. Messi's answers was Greece, Spain, and Germany. Yep, you're right on the money. Free Weber says Japan globally has the worst amount of debt, excluding the United States. Bull XRP says Brazil has the worst amount of debt. Joe says El Salvador has the most amount of debt. Zach says Australia, interesting one, has the most amount of debt. Callie says Brazil also has the most amount of debt as well. Lena says USA, I mean, that's a given, but excluding the USA, because US is on the list as well, but excluding the United States. They don't care because it's all going to get wiped out once the new system comes in. They hope it gets wiped out when the new system comes in. China, good guess what house. Japan, good guess what house. Pakistan, Nigeria, and Saudi Arabia. All interesting picks, I'll be honest. So here it is. Here it is. Singapore, nice guess. Japan, China, Bhutan, Sudan. You're just naming countries now with us. Okay, here it is globally with the worst amounts of debts. So globally, the picture is even worse when it comes to debt. Japan holds an unevenable record of the most in-debt country, with a public debt reaching 262.5% of its GDP. The United States, the world's largest economic powerhouse, also exhibits a higher debt in ratios than France, 129.3% of GDP. Opposite to its spectrum, some of the emerging essentially nations or raw material exporters showcase particularly low debt levels. Russia holds a 17.8% debt of its GDP. South Korea has a 51.3% of its debt of its GDP and stands out as an exception in the world where debt seems to become the norm. However, these international comparisons should be handled with care. Calculation methods, economic structures, and political contexts vary considerably from one country to another, making direct comparison sometimes is misleading. The French debt, although essentially concerning, is that not an exception in the global economic landscape. It reflects the global trends of rising public debt by recent crises, essentially. The true challenge for France, as for many countries, will be to find a balance between managing its debt and maintaining a sustainable economic growth. So that was just a little, so you can be updated on the knowledge of there are other countries in debt, not just the United States. And even though the US has a crazy, ridiculous amount of debt, but there's a lot of other countries that their bubble can also burst. Everybody's looking at the US bubble of when it's going to burst, but I can tell you for a fact that other countries' bubbles are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And if one particular country in, the EU decides to burst that bubble, France, it could definitely impact the crypto markets. But ironically, Russia doesn't have that much debt. A country that is sanctioned by SWIFT, I was going to say United States, but it's more like SWIFT, they don't have much debt. Not that much debt at all. And, essentially the European countries are in much more higher debt than Russia is. Some Asian countries are in higher debt than Russia is. Russia is sitting at 17.8% of their GDP in terms of debt. That is ridiculously low. Argentina, Japan, UK, China, Japan, Pakistan, China. Miles, Ian, thank you so much for the £20 donation. That's going straight into the CMF to start up the CMF hedge fund. Ian, thank you so much for the £20 donation. Absolutely amazing. Thank you. Miles, there is a $27 trillion in Nostrojo account just sitting there. When he takes over, that can help pay off their debts of their countries. Fair enough. Which is true. Which is true. Yeah, facts. Robert always talks about how terrible Japan is. I need SUI IPTOS, but I has no money. Jim, work. And Nostro Vostro. Thank you, Happy Pisces, for that info. Italy, George. Funky Brother has the biggest debts, almost 1,000%. Funky Brother has the most amount of debts, almost 1,000%. I think Pakistan has a high debt. Debt to who? They can print money. Don't get that. Who they own debt to is the people that they borrowed it to. So, for example, Spain borrows money to France. France borrows money to Italy. Italy borrows money to Greece. Greece borrows money to another country. And the debt just goes round and round and round. Everybody owes each other money. So who they owe money to is each other. Who's being taxed for that money is you. Now, what we're going to talk about next is CBDCs, but Brazil's CBDC. You see, Brazil is coming out with a CBDC by the name of BRICS, and it's going to be launched next year. In fact, the Bank of International Settlements has praised Brazil on their CBDC ventures and how Brazil is creating the one bank system for a CBDC. Every country that's releasing their own CBDCs in, small groups, for example, like India released their CBDC in small groups, and a few islands, Jamaica there as well, Nigeria as well. Hong Kong's doing some testing on CBDCs. So a lot of countries on CBDC, let's just put it as that. 98% of centralized banks on CBDCs, according to the Bank of International Settlements. But Brazil is about to be introducing a new feature to their CBDC, which is connecting the Brazilian CBDC to the DeFi space. And why it's an interesting concept is that CBDCs are fairly known as retail CBDC, which is only for retail section. It's not connected to anything. And wholesale CBDC, which is mainly going to be used for cross-border payments. But the idea of DeFi connected to CBDC was tested upon, but never revealed from any country that they're thinking about introducing their CBDC into the DeFi space until now. And to point out the fact, Brazil introduced, when I said the one bank system, every country that's coming out with a CBDC, there's a lot of banks involved. So everybody assumes the banks will all disappear and there'll be one bank system. So far, every country that's coming out with CBDC, their banks are still remaining where they are. It's just they're going to be connected to the CBDC platforms. Brazil, on the other hand, when they're coming out with their CBDC, they said eventually there'll be one banking app only, where you don't need to have, for example, a Chase banking app and a Bank of America banking app, or a Lloyd's banking app and a Barclays banking app and a NatWest banking app. You only have one banking app, and that's just for CBDCs. And that's it. There's no more Lloyd's, no more Barclays, no more HSBC. There's just one banking app is what's going to be happening in Brazil. And they're going to be the first country to implement the one bank account or one banking app. So they've been praised a lot by the Bank of International Settlements. And their new idea is CBDC DeFi. Brazil's central bank is making significant strides in its DREX central bank digital currency CBDC project by incorporating decentralized finance DeFi elements. Currently in its second pilot phase, the initiative aims to boost financial inclusion and enhance transactions efficiency in Brazil's digital economy. The pilot will test various applications, including the tokenization of real estate and the establishment of liquidity pools for public securities trading. Utilizing smart contracts and decentralized ledger technology for automated transactions and improved transparency. Brazil is going to be introducing essentially smart contracts capabilities on their CBDCs. Brazil is also going to be introducing securities trading on their CBDCs. The central bank believes that integrating DeFi features into DREX is essential for minimizing cost and risk associated with traditional banking. However, the full launch of the CBDC, initially planned for 2024, may be postponed until early 2025 due to its ongoing regulatory considerations and the need for a robust framework governing digital, essentially, currencies. Roberto, the president of Banco Central de Brazil, emphasizes that focusing on CBDCs is a crucial step in modernizing Brazil's financial landscape. The central bank is also advancing nationwide tokenization efforts through an open finance platform, which aims to provide users with diverse banking and payment options, including CBDCs. This pilot signifies Brazil's commitment to creating a more inexclusive and technological advanced financial system, showcasing its ambition to lead in a digital finance evolution. So, Brazil is about to be introducing the first ever one banking app for the entire Brazil. For every citizen in Brazil, there's going to be one banking app only when their CBDC gets launched, essentially early 2025. It was supposed to be late 2024 for their CBDC release, but now it's early 2025. But they're also going to be having DeFi capabilities for their CBDC. So developers can build on the Brazil CBDC. It's going to have smart contract capabilities, programmable capabilities, some other high capabilities that has never been discussed by a country or centralized bank around the world. Because every centralized bank so far has said, retail CBDC, wholesale CBDC, full stop. Cross-border payments, tokenization, full stop. But introducing DeFi capabilities in terms of, smart contract capabilities and so on and so on, does Brazil want developers to start building on the Brazilian CBDC later on? It's an interesting one that Brazil's doing. They're going to be the first in everything for the Western market space. Now, ever since the 1980s, let's go inside the comment section before we get through the next news. But the next news is about BRICS. BRICS, China and Russia is what we're going to talk about next. But before we go through that, let's go inside the comment section. By the way, this is a live show, which means if you have any questions, put them down inside the comment section. I'm reading everyone's questions one by one, giving answers to everyone. I heard every U.S. citizen which owns a residential house are in debt 1.3 million due to the real estate tax fraud happening. It's an interesting one. I didn't know that one. Sorry, Miles. Talking and texting. XRP will be liquidated to the $27 trillion setting in the ideal liquidity nostril account, which every country has hold for cross-border payments and exchange payments. Yes, I know that one. That's why I was confused when he said, but now I get it. Thank you, Brother Ian, and it's all good calls. Yes, let's go. America has abused Japan for years and years regarding Japanese debt. Pakistan high debt. They don't have a flushing, electricity. Jim, that's not true. Every ever since the 1980s. Ever since the 1980s, Japan has been in crazy amounts of debt or abused by the United States market space. So on Greasy Paul and Jim, just Google. Some images will understand. You will understand that people have a better life there than here in the UK. Fact is fact. Okay, Jim. Now, what we're going to talk about is BRICS next. BRICS. Russia puts China in great difficulty. The Russian economy is increasing, turning towards China, particularly through the massive adoption of yuan, the Chinese yuan, for its international trade exchanges. This significant dependency on the Chinese currency, a direct consequence of Russia's exclusion from the global, essentially financial system, SWIFT, rises from the interest from Beijing, which seeks to strengthen its global influence and avoid Western countries. So, with essentially Russia being outside of SWIFT is the reason why Russia is turning towards cross-border payments to get around SWIFT, for example, in their sanctions. And the Chinese yuan is actually climbing the ladder, you could say, because Russia's doing trades on Chinese yuan and the US dollars as well, whatever they have left, but and the US dollars. But the Chinese yuan is actually climbing the ladder very, very slowly, but mostly due to Russia's trades. But also, China can't continue doing trades with Russia because it's going to impact the sanction situation, which is then going to make the US put strong sanctions on China, which is the last thing the Chinese market space wants. Because if China gets sanctioned, that means they won't be able to sell to the US or to the EU market spaces, or to even some Middle Eastern countries. That's the worst thing that can happen to China. So China, essentially might have to greenlight cryptocurrencies, because Russia is about to greenlight cryptocurrencies for cross-border payments to get around sanctions. And who is Russia going to trade with? For example, China. So China has to greenlight crypto payments as well for cross-border payments. China has no choice but to greenlight crypto payments for cross-border payments. Now, since the intensification of international sanctions against Russia, the yuan has become the most traded foreign currency in the country. Moscow, excluded from Western financial systems such as SWIFT, has had no choice but to strengthen its commercial partnerships with China, which causes increased dependency on the yuan. Russia has become extremely reliant on the yuan, a situation that could essentially become dangerous for its economy if the flows of this currency were to dry up. You see, Russia is becoming very strongly dependent on the Chinese yuan because it's the number one country that's doing trade with them. If China goes through turbulence, for example, and Russia is holding a lot of Chinese yuan, then that means if the Chinese market space goes through turbulence, the Russia's market space will also go through turbulence, which is bad as an impact for Russia. The dependency is essentially by the caution of Chinese financial institutions faced with Western sanctions. Major Chinese banks hesitant to engage further with Russian entities. There are Chinese banks right now who are scared of continuing trades with Russia because they're scared of American sanctions. Fearing a face-on sanction by the United States, this situation creates economic instability for Russia, which could see one of its main financial lifelines shrink. It is. Russia's only lifeline is China. And if China stops trade with Russia, and if Russia is stuck with a lot of yuan money, which they're not going to be able to use, because who are they going to trade their Chinese yuan with? So Russia might be going through some difficulty moving forward, because Chinese banks already have started to stop working with Russian businesses, because Chinese banks are scared of sanctions. This situation creates an economic instability for Russia, which could see one of its main financial lifelines completely shrink, which is China. For Russia, this growing dependency on the yuan is not without its consequences, as it exposes the country to additional risks, particularly in terms of stability of its monetary reserves and its trade balance. Geopolitical risk for China. On its side, Beijing faces a strict dilemma. Although Russia is an important partner, especially in the BRICS alliance, China must also preserve its relationship with other economic powers, particularly in Europe and North America. Now, before I read you the rest, anybody remember me a while ago in 2023 and in 2024? I've talked about BRICS. I've said, BRICS is about this, group of countries who are trying to go against, the Western payment systems of SWIFT and the sanctions and so on. And essentially BRICS acts incredibly tough. But I said China will have difficulties. I said China cannot, be sanctioned. Even though China and Russia do these big, massive, bold speeches, we are creating our own payment system. We are going outside of the US dollar. We are going against the US dollar. They're still scared of the US and sanctions. Because you know what control the US has over China? The biggest control the US has over China is sales. You see, China is a well-known country for pretty much developing and providing everything around you. Every single item in your home right now is probably made in China. It could be your iPhone, it could be your iPhone, it could be your TVs, it could be whatever, your fridges, anything you can see around you is probably made in China. So China needs to make sales because they produce a lot, so they need to sell a lot. So let's just say one day, essentially, they decide to sanction China, and China is acting like this big powerhouse. BRICS is going to take over the world, and then the US turns around and goes, we're sanctioning China. If the US does that, that means that China is producing a lot, but they can't sell to the US, and they can't sell to the EU market space, and then they can't sell to a few other countries as well in the Middle East, which means China has produced a lot and can't sell. And if they produce a lot and they can't sell, that means they've used a lot of materials. That means they've used a lot of time, a lot of money, which now they're stuck with, which adds to their debt. And that means that whatever they have produced, they have to sell at much more lower costs, which means they go into more debt. You see, it doesn't matter how big China thinks they are or how big Russia thinks they are. The US always has the last voice and the last laugh. So as much as, essentially China coming out or Russia coming out and saying, we are the powerhouses and we are making BRICS and we are going against the US dollar, they're still weak, pathetically weak. Because if they get sanctioned, who are they going to sell to? Because the EU won't buy from them. America won't buy from them. Canada won't buy anything from China. Honestly, if the US goes tomorrow, China is sanctioned. China has lost the entire US market. China has lost the Canadian markets. China has lost the Australian markets. China has lost the EU markets. China has lost the UK markets. China has lost the Japanese markets. The list just goes on of China has lost this market space, which means they've produced a lot and they can't sell. And if they do sell, they're going to be selling to countries that are neighboring them that don't mind buying from China, but they're going to be selling at a much more lower price. So that means China spend money, time, resources, and they're in a huge amount of debt now. And China's economy is not doing too great either. The real estate market space is still a bit on the shady, rocky side. I said this a long time ago, a very long time ago, when everybody inside the crypto space, and this is why I say I'm top tier, but this is why I say, look, I understand the market space a lot more from every angle. But now China's starting to realize this scenario as well, where the Chinese banks are scared of being sanctioned. What happened to China's big speech? BRICS, payment system, rule the world. What happened to that big, powerful speech they did a while ago, or back-to-back speeches? So this is why I said, in all these, crypto influencers, shouting out BRICS payment system, BRICS will do this and BRICS will do that. BRICS will do absolutely nothing because the US won't let it. Because there's bigger plays at stake, much more bigger things at stake that some people can't even comprehend. It's not as easy as you think of trying to escape the ranks of the US dollar. It's not as easy as you think of going, well, we're going to do a whole new payment system and go against the US dollar. What, do you think the US is just going to sit back and go, good luck to you, or have fun, on your new payment system. No. You think that's how the world works? I also said a very long time ago, no country on this planet likes the idea of losing power. There's not a single country in this planet that likes the idea of losing power. Every country on this planet wants more power. So from what part did you think BRICS was, China, Russia, and everybody else was going to come through and take over the world? There's no single country on this planet that likes the idea of losing power. They like more power. I like the idea of essentially gaining more power. But yeah, that's big, essentially, BRICS, essentially China, Russia, strong, powerful speeches. We're creating BRICS, new payment system, take over the world, going against the US dollar. Chinese banks are scared to trade with Russia in case of a sanction. Because China knows if they get sanctioned, they've lost every single market space in the world that counts. And that means China has produced so many products, used so much money, so much time, so much resources, so many people to pay in their own country, and they can't sell. Also, China has an issue of borrowing money as well. And regarding the report you read, Russia is doing better, good, even with the sanctions, is because Russia is not borrowing money as much. Russia doesn't borrow money that much. They sell products instead. China borrows a lot of money to a lot of countries. I mean, a while ago, China is raising $114 billion for the African market space. China's raising $114 billion for the African market space. Russia doesn't borrow as much money as China does. So that's why their debts are a little bit lower. But China borrows a lot of money, produces a lot of things, and they get sanctions, they're done for. They're absolutely done for. China borrows too much money because they're trying to compete with the US. And on the other side, they're producing too much. Which means if they get sanctions, they have a high debt and a lot of products they can't sell. Which means their debt just goes through the roof. So China's on rocky grounds if they try to, double cross the US market space. They're on rocky grounds. And I'm not saying, if China gets sanctions, it won't affect the US market space. It will. If China gets sanctioned, it will affect the US market space as well. It will affect the world market space if China gets sanctioned. But the worst effect will be on China itself. And China knows that. And I said this a very long time ago. And now Chinese banks are starting to realize this scenario and going, well, maybe we shouldn't trade with Russia. That's why Chinese banks are getting scared and they're not doing trades anymore because they're scared of sanctions from the US, the same country that, they're making bold speeches about. We're going against the US dollar. But on the other side, we're too scared to trade with Russia. So supporting Moscow too openly could lead to sanctions against China, jeopardizing its access to international market spaces. I said this in 2023. China walks a very, very tight rope. Beijing cannot afford to lose its key Western market spaces. For example, the US market space or the EU market space or any other market space, Australia, Canada, Japan, the list goes on, Taiwan, just by supporting Russia. So China is thinking to itself right now, if we support Russia, that means we lose the US market space, we lose the EU market space, we lose the Australian market space, the Canadian market space, the UK market space, a few African country market spaces, Singapore's market space, Taiwan's market space, South Korea's market space, if China decides to continue working with Russia. So now China is taking a step back. They're saying, maybe we should slow down trades with Russia. And again, this is BRICS. What happened to Brazil, Russia, India, China? What happened to that? South Africa. What happened to that powerful group just a while ago, BRICS? Because two members of BRICS, one of them can't trade with the other one. even though they're a collective group of countries powerful together. And one of them has decided to bail. China's not bailing BRICS, but they're not doing trades with a BRICS country. Isn't the slogan for BRICS, essentially countries coming together to trade with each other, to use their own currencies? Isn't that the selling point of BRICS? Isn't the selling point of BRICS to use your own currency? Everybody's involved, forget the US dollars. So what happened to that? What happened to that slogan of selling points to bring everybody in? Because one of the founding BRICS members, China, is scared to trade with Russia because they're starting to realize we're about to lose every other market space because of Russia, and we don't want to do that. I said this in 2023. It's happening like a domino effect. Furthermore, the strong, essentially, use of the yuan in Russia is not enough to make it a dominant international currency as well. So there's a bigger issue as well at hand. Not a bigger issue, but the biggest issue is China losing every single market space in the world. The other issue is the other BRICS founding member, Russia. Russia has a lot of Chinese yuan. A lot of Chinese yuan. And if China decides to completely close its doors to Russia because they don't want to lose the EU, US market space and everybody else, Russia's stuck with a lot of yuan. Who's Russia going to sell their yuan to? Because China won't trade with them eventually. Do you think the US is going to come, essentially any country is going to go to Russia and say, I'll buy your yuan? The number one currency around the world traded 24/7 is the US dollars. And if Russia gets stuck with a lot of yuan they can't use, or if China gets sanctioned and they can't sell. You see, Russia and China have big issues. Even though they go around and act like powerhouses, they're nobodies against the US. They're genuinely nobodies. But a lot of people don't like hearing that. A lot of people like hearing China is a strong powerhouse, or the US is a strong, or China's a big powerhouse, Russia's a big powerhouse. In reality, they're both nobodies against the US. Because one of them, Russia, is going to be stuck with Chinese yuan, they can't sell. The other one is going to be sanctioned, China, and they can't sell either. And they both just start sliding downhill. Russia has too much of the US has too much of a grip on the market space and on every country. And it doesn't matter what group they form. They can form the BRICS group, the great group, the excellent group. They can name their group whatever they want. They can still never get away from the US. Because every other country listens to the US. And if they point and sanction, nobody does business with that country. Furthermore, and the only reason Russia was surviving so far on the sanctions, the only reason Russia was surviving on the sanctions is because China still had their doors open to Russia on trades. And now, China's about to be slowly closing the door on Russia's trades. The only reason Russia was surviving was because China kept their doors open with Russia for trades. That's the only reason they were surviving for trades, through essentially these sanctions, because China kept their doors open. But China's about to close that door, even though they're BRICS members. Remember that big group they were creating, BRICS, take over the world? That plan is not going too well for BRICS right now. Furthermore, the strong use of the yuan in Russia is not enough to make it a dominant international currency for later on for Russia to get rid of. Despite its growing role in essentially Russo-Chinese exchanges, the yuan remains unprecedented in global reserves and faces limitations due to strict capital controls in China. The dominance of the US dollar on the global stage still remains intact. If Russia continues its dependency on the yuan, China will have to decide if it is ready to assume the risk, both economically and diplomatically. It is true, if China wants to keep their doors open to Russia, then China has to choose. And China has to choose either to leave the European market space, to leave the US market space, to leave the Australian market space, to leave the Canadian market space, to leave the UK market space, to leave the Japanese market space, to pretty much leave the majority of the biggest market spaces in the world, and to keep Russia as a trade partner. let's see let's see what China is going to choose at the end. Is China going to choose to play ball with the US, or is China going to go, let's just lose everybody and keep Russia? I'll be honest, it doesn't take a genius to figure this one out. Russia and China's partnership won't last too long, because there's no way in hell that China is going to say no to the European market space, no to the American market space, no to the Canadian, Japanese, Australian, South Korean, and the list just goes on, the UK market space, and just go yes to Russia. There's no hope in hell that China's going to choose just Russia. So let's see how this brotherhood relationship in BRICS is going to go moving forward. The implementations of this situation are numerous and complex, because China has to choose both economically and diplomatically Russia against everybody else. The growing dependency of Russia on the yuan exposes both countries to major economic and geopolitical risks. China, although strengthens its ties with Moscow through the BRICS group, must balance its interests to avoid compromising its relationship with other international partners. So China's becoming, stuck. China is stuck right now. China's like, on one side, we have to, be in BRICS. China's like, on one side, we're in BRICS, going against the US dollar. But on the other side, we're stuck, because we can't go against the US. We can't go against the EU. We can't go against Canada, Australia, Japan, Taiwan, Singapore, Hong Kong, everyone. What, we're going to lose everyone just to do trades with Russia? So on one side, they have to maintain BRICS. And on the other side, BRICS is an interesting partnership, I don't have to say. I mean, I said this a very long time ago. A lot of people don't comprehend how the world actually functions. I've said this many times, and I said that from the corporate sector. I understand fully how the world. I said this in 20. Everything you're hearing right now from China, Chinese banks today coming out and saying they're afraid of doing trades with Russia. I said this will happen in 2024. I said this will happen moving forward with BRICS. In 2023, last year, I said this will happen in 2020, moving forward with BRICS. I predict this last year coming in. And today we have Chinese banks saying, we're a bit scared doing trades with Russia because we don't want to lose everybody else just to do trades with Russia. So it's going to be very awkward at the BRICS Christmas party with China and Russia. Because on one side, China wants to be, a BRICS powerhouse. But on the other side, they're a nobody. They are an absolute nobody against the US. So it's going to be a very awkward Christmas party at the BRICS summit this year, or the New Year's party for BRICS. In the long term, this dynamic could also, impact China quite badly if it moves forward. Both the path remains very fraudulent and many obstacles ahead of themselves, particularly in the face of the continuing dominance of the US dollar. So, it's going to be a very awkward BRICS New Year's party with China and Russia. Because can BRICS even still say, for example, everybody come together, let's use our currencies and so on? Can BRICS even still say that? Because one of its founding members doesn't want to trade with the other because they're scared of countries outside of BRICS of losing their market spaces. So can BRICS even still go around and say, everybody come together, let's trade with our own money? Because BRICS, China and Russia are not trading with each other very soon. Everybody genuinely inside the crypto space, every single influencer inside the crypto space genuinely thought it was going to be easy getting away from the US dollar. And I said, no, it isn't. Because Everybody else didn't understand everything else regarding trades, regarding countries working together, regarding sales, regarding time essentially consuming or money. There's so many factors in play. And it's not just as easy as every country going, oh, some countries going, we're going to stop using this particular currency. It's not as easy as you think it is. There's a lot of things, crucial things in play. And, China has to close 100 doors just to keep one open. Or China can decide to keep the 100 doors open and just close the other door, which is Russia. There's so many factors in play. Everybody inside the crypto space thought it was so easy. BRICS taking over everything, BRICS countries. But in reality, China has to choose. Keep 100 doors open and close one door, or keep one door open, Russia, and close 100 market spaces. Who are they going to choose? I think China's smartest choice would be to play ball with the Russia. With essentially China's genuine smartest play could be to play ball with the US. They have no other option but to play ball with the US and just forget about Russia. Japan. Hi, I'm new to crypto. Can you give me advice? Tony Montana, how you do? Crypto Mouse, can you guide me for how much XRP would need for freedom from government? What I can tell you is read up on Ripple and XRP. I can't tell you what to buy or how much to buy something. I can't tell you go and read something. Reading is good. It expands your knowledge. So what I would suggest is if you want to go for XRP, go to Ripple's own website. They have a lot of PDFs on Ripple's own website. They have a lot of essentially even blogs on Ripple's website that I suggest you to read. And then when you come to a conclusion of your own, if this is the best choice, best crypto project to go for, then decide, how much budget you want to put towards it. Everybody has a different budget. So read what is Ripple, read what is XRP, Ledger, and so on, because that's what you want to go towards. And then decide on your own budget how much you want to put towards it every week, every month, or daily. Is what I would suggest. Everyone has a different budget. I couldn't tell you. I could tell you go, 10,000 or 100,000 XRP and so on, but that's ridiculous to say. So everybody has a different budget, and no matter how, if you have a small portion or a big portion or medium portion of a particular cryptocurrency, you're still going to be better off than everybody else around you who doesn't hold any cryptocurrency. The US usually does, though. China knows this. Facts. Yes, I remember you saying that. You're always spot on. What can I say? Yes, I remember you saying that. Let's go, Mike. Let's go, John. Let's go, Ray. Aren't they sitting on at the same table? They are. That's why they have no choice. They can't leave the table. Cross-border payments is the solution to avoid sanctions. It is, but you can still get sanctions. That's the issue as well. Miles, why can't China sell to other countries within the BRICS? Just a question. Yes, the reason why China will also have difficulty selling to other countries is because the US could possibly sanction those countries too. The US has too much power, way too much power than people can comprehend. Yes, it has a crazy amount of debt. Yes, the dollar might be completely worthless, but it is still useful. And the US still has the biggest strength. Look, simplest way, Bank of International Settlements. There are 63 centralized banks under the Bank of International Settlements. And the Bank of International Settlements knows, in fact, that the US has a crazy debt. They know that the US dollar is, printed too much and overused. But still, they say, if the American markets sneeze, the world market catches a cold. It just shows the level of power play the US has. And this is coming from the Bank of International Settlements. Cross-border payments is a solution to avoid sanctions. You would think, but they will still sanction other countries. Miles, why can't China sell to other countries when the BRICS? That's why it's sanctioned, because they'll just go around sanctioning countries. They'll find a reason to sanction a country. And then that's it. It's pretty much game over. The US runs the world, pretty much. And from the report that I read regarding Russia having the lowest, essentially, debts, it's because Russia doesn't borrow a lot. Russia sells instead than borrowing. China borrows a lot of money to compete with the US, which is going to end very bad for them in the long term if they keep on doing that. But Russia doesn't borrow too much money. They rather sell than borrow money because they have Dagestan free gold. China is, and also free gold. China is going down the road like Japan did. Property will be the undergoing. But today, China said they are going to help Russia with anything they need. Yeah, they're lying out of their teeth because they're trying to look like a powerhouse, but behind the scenes, Chinese banks don't want to operate with, essentially with Russia at all. If China gets sanctions, it's game over for them. Chinese are removing funds from countries because in case of sanctions, they don't want their money to be frozen like they did with Russia. Yeah, I'll give you that tenner tomorrow. Israel is the problem. They are, okay, Tony, too far. They are still trading with Russia under the table. India is buying oil and selling us to the UK. That is true. They are. They're definitely trading under the table still, without a doubt. India is a part of BRICS nation. It is true. Even India is a part of the BRICS nations. India went to buy oil from Russia. India went to pay with the Indian rupees to Russia, and Russia rejected it. Russia said, we only accept Russian rubles or US dollars for oil. Even though India is BRICS, Russia is BRICS, they're supposed to accept each other's currencies. Russia didn't accept the Indian rupees from India because they saw it as useless to them. And Russia said, we accept US dollars or Russian rubles for our oil, which is odd because, again, BRICS, everyone's currency counts in BRICS. But India can't pay with Indian rupees to Russia to buy oil. There's just so many issues with BRICS that it's crazy once you go deep diving into it. And Russia and China spend millions to build a road from Russia to China. I think this news comes from Western China and Russia are enemies. China and Russia are enemies now. They're not enemies. It's just banks inside of China are having difficulties trading with essentially the US. The banks themselves. So there are a lot of banks in China, and those banks themselves want to stop the trades. It's the banks themselves. They want to stop the trades because they're afraid of getting sanctioned. If you enjoyed the Ethereum, please share the program. Let's go, Scott. If you enjoyed the Ethereum, please share the program. Let's go. Jib Mikop, share the live. Second World War on the page was won by England, but the truth was US one. Okay, let's not go there. Iraq banned dollar, yeah. But I still don't understand when the total population of BRICS in 2023 was 3.5 billion. That's a power to trade within. Yes, but that power to trade within needs to have money. So those countries that are essentially joining BRICS, the people within those countries need to have money to trade. Look at who's buying. In terms of middle class and lower class and so on, the Western countries have a lot more higher middle class and essentially lower class and so on, while the rest of the countries have much more higher lower class. So yes, they might have a huge population of people joining BRICS from every country, but all those huge populations of people, do they have money to spend a lot buying things back-to-back on trades with essentially China, or back-to-back trades with other nations that they are inside of BRICS with? That's what you have to look at essentially. Yes, some of those countries have billions of people, but do those every single billion of people that they have a lot of money to trade is what goes on. And the biggest issue with China is the banks. It's the banks themselves within China that are having difficulty of trade with Russia. So it's not even the Chinese government coming out and saying, we're going to have some. It's the banks. The Chinese banks themselves are saying, we don't want to get sanctioned. All wars are bankers' wars. And that's a fact as well. Hello, Miles and CMF. Miles, good to see you. How you doing? Rupees is monopoly. Don't say that. But yeah, you got to look at the people of those countries. Can every single one of them afford to buy certain things 24/7, back-to-back trades? It's not just about 3.5 billion people or 2 billion people. Those 2 billion people have money to spend 24/7. Now, it's like you go into a shop. If you walk into an Apple store, for example, you'll find about 50 people in the Apple store, but only about 7 out of the 50 people are going to buy an iPhone. The rest are there just to mess about with the iPhones and the laptops and the MacBooks and so on. Same scenario with China and the 3 billion people joining essentially. It's like genuinely, when you walk into an Apple store, you'll see 50 people, but there's only 7 people in there buying an iPhone. The rest are just there to play around with the MacBooks and iPhones. Same scenario with China's trades. It doesn't matter if 3 billion people are joining China, or those 3 billion people going to be buying, trading 24/7 with China. Every single individual. No. So it doesn't matter if 3 billion people are joining, because they're not buyers. Is what I'm trying to say. And the example I gave was the Apple shop. Because whenever you walk into an Apple store, I just walked into a few days ago, because I dropped my iPhone and I had to go back there to my bank insurance, give me another iPhone through the Apple store. And there's always people in the Apple store, but, you know, there's only like 7 people buying an iPhone. The rest of them are just messing around. Now, in Ripple case is what we're going to talk about next. So moving off China, Russia, and BRICS to Ripple case. In Ripple's case, Coinbase has decided to join the venture as well. So as we all know, Gary Gensler did the appeal of notice, and Coinbase has decided to come out and use the Ripple case in their favor, and also tell essentially that the SEC is once again abusing their power. And you can see that with the Ripple appeal. Coinbase has actually stated that the SEC appealing against Ripple is creating more confusion. So Coinbase is backing Ripple. In the Ripple case, SEC may be backed into a corner again. Coinbase is also now involved. According to the latest information, Coinbase is essentially pursuing Judge Catherine to reconsider its request for an interim appeal, citing the SEC's recent appeal in the Ripple case as further evidence of the need for judicial clarity. The cryptocurrency exchange Coinbase argues that the ongoing uncertainty regarding the application of the Howey test to secondary market sales essentially requires a higher court to step in. Coinbase said in a letter to the court that the SEC Ripple appeal highlights confusion surrounding the Howey test, a legal standard used in the 1946 Supreme Court decision to determine what qualifies as a security. Coinbase lawyers are backing Ripple. Coinbase lawyers argue that resolving this issue is critical, given the conflict in opinions from Congress and senators and regulators. The fact that congressmen, senators, and regulators are divided in answering the questions underscores the difficulty of the issue, Coinbase said in their letter, the Coinbase lawyers, and that the different judicial decisions illustrates this point, the letter said. Coinbase has first essentially filed the appeal in April, asking the Second Circuit Courts of Appeals to address a fundamental question: how the Howey test applies to digital assets. And appeals are rarely accepted before a case has essentially reached a final decision. However, a prominent legal commentator noted that the SEC's recent appeal in the Ripple case strengthened the argument for Coinbase's appeal to be considered. The SEC responded in a May letter essentially to the Judge Catherine for Coinbase's case for dismissal and said no substantial basis for disagreement, but the judge has yet to rule. Now, while the SEC's Ripple appeal continues, Coinbase is once again pushing for a review of its own case. According to Coinbase, filing both lawsuits simultaneously with the Second Circuit Courts would give the courts a more comprehensive view of the legal and practical implications of the SEC stance on regulating digital assets. So Coinbase is now going to be using, Coinbase is using the Ripple appeal, the SEC appealing essentially Ripple. They're using that in their case. They actually sent a letter to a judge and said, you see, this is the reason why we need to have essentially clarity on terms of regulations. This is the reason the Howey test is useless. And in fact, even though, which is massive, Coinbase lawyers are defending Ripple in their own case. And in fact, the founder of Cardano even came out and said, after Ripple basically wins against the SEC fully, are we going to start calling the Howey test the Ripple test from now on? Which was essentially, a dig towards the SEC, because the SEC has been wasting everybody's time with the Howey test, which is useless. So if Ripple fully wins against the SEC and this case is done, there's no more appeals and so on and so on, are we going to start calling the Howey test the Ripple test? I mean, that will put a, I think Gary Gensler won't be liking that slogan, preferably. Now, moving off Ripple case and Coinbase coming in to defend Ripple in their own case, and Cardano's founder making jokes, but genuine joke, to be fairly honest. To Tether is what we're going to talk about next. Tether has decided that they don't want to lose the European market space. How ironic, because Chinese banks are also thinking to themselves they don't want to lose the European market space. And Tether is thinking the same thing. We can't lose the European market space. So Tether is trying to come up with a solution not to lose the European market space. And we're going to go through that now. Before we go through that, let's go inside the comment section first. Stormy, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Miles, understand, but their debt as much as the US. They are in debt. The US is in a crazy amount of debt. The US is in a ridiculous amount of debt. And the dollar is pretty much useless, but it's still useful. That's the issue. And it will still remain useful because the US has a lot of power in sanctions. They can sanction any country under any sort of circumstances that, you know, is they would see as not fit, for example. And because of that much power they have, no country can pretty much turn against it. It's too much of a big powerhouse to drop. But yeah, they have crazy amounts of debts. They have crazy amounts of debts, no doubt about it. They print too much, no doubt about it. But still, the #1 currency used. And still, every country is scared of being sanctioned. That should tell you a lot. Jake Clever was talking about Alexa. Is it taking over XRP? No, nothing's taking over XRP. I don't know who Jake the Clever is, but his name should not be Jake Clever. Jake Moron would make more sense, because how could anyone say Alexa is taking over XRP? If somebody said, you know, Ethereum would be taking over XRP, it's not going to, in my opinion, but, you know, at least it's Ethereum, or at least it's, you know, Bitcoin, or at least something. But Alexa, sure. Maybe in Jake's world, Alexa is going to be taking over XRP, but not in the reality world. Crazy that India can send a spaceship to the moon, but their people starving Britain should stop giving them money every year. Hi, Moses. Stormy, good to see you. How you doing? But no, Alexa is not taking over XRP. It's never going to be taking over XRP. Thank you, brother. No problem, Abel. Anytime. Now, Tether. Tether to create a new solution for the European market space, because they realized they can't lose the EU market space. Tether, one of the leading stablecoin issuers, has announced plans to develop a new, essentially, solution tailored to the European market space. According to an announcement on X, this move is a response to the evolving regulatory landscapes in the region. Remember when Tether was making big noises and saying, how can the EU do this? We will not be bowing down to the EU's, you know, regulatory pressure. The EU is on the wrong side of this conversation. Remember those bold speeches the Tether CEO was making? And I said, you know, it's either he comes around or forget about it. And I said the last person that went against the EU was CZ, ended up in prison. So again, something I said, you know, a while ago. I'm so thankful, genuinely so thankful for the wisdom God has given me. Genuinely so thankful. But you know, you can see it here as well, with Tether essentially coming to their senses, realizing they can't go against the EU market space, because that's a big market space to lose out on. Because if they lose out on the EU, they'll lose out in Canada, they'll lose out in the US, they'll lose out on UK, and the list just follows. According to their announcement on X, this move is in response to the evolving regulatory landscapes in the region, particularly the implementation of the markets in crypto assets, MiCA regulations. Tether's decision underscores the importance of adapting to regulatory frameworks and addressing the specific needs of Europe's structured and stable economy. As the MiCA comes into full effect, companies operating within the EU must comply with these new rules so they can continue providing services to the region's consumers and businesses. Meanwhile, Tether has yet to disclose the full details of its upcoming solution. However, this new development is a response to regulatory pressure and the opportunity for Tether to reinforce its commitment to the European market space. As more information about Tether's solution emerges, it will be interesting to see how the company navigates the complex regulatory landscape. Less than 72 hours ago as well, Coinbase's Global also revealed plans to delist all unauthorized stablecoins from its trading platforms across the European economic areas by the end of this year. And this is what pushed Tether to the edge, because Tether thought, OKX exchange is delisting USDT. Nobody cares. Or Kraken listing, delisting USDT. Nobody cares. BitGet delisting, USDT. Nobody cares. Coinbase yesterday said we're delisting USDT in the EU market space. Today, Tether comes out and goes, we're going to find a solution. And this is the same Tether CEO who said, we're not going to be bowing down to the EU market space. They're on the wrong side of this. They can't put regulatory pressure on Tether. Well, I'm guessing regulatory pressure worked very quickly by the looks of it. Coinbase Global revealed its plans to delist, pretty much yesterday. Tether comes out today and goes, we're going to think of a solution. The decision directly responded to the EU's upcoming crypto regulations, MiCA. The MiCA's regulatory framework, signed last year, will be fully implemented by December 31st, 2024. Under the new framework, stablecoin issuers must obtain licenses, money licenses, to operate with the EEA. Coinbase, known for its emphasis on regulatory compliance, is taking the lead and ensuring it meets the MiCA demands ahead of schedule. In an interview, Coinbase spokesperson revealed that the exchange intends to restrict stablecoin services to non-compliant EEA users by the end of this year. So Tether has pretty much time by the end of this year to get approved in the EU. And they won't have a chance. Not hope in hell. Tether Holdings' native token, USDT, is at risk of being delisting from Binance and Coinbase and everywhere else. The stablecoin issuer could be soon inaccessible to European users, which makes it not good for USDT. Kraken constricts sharply with some of its major competitors as well in terms of Tether USD. OKX exchange already delisted USDT back in March, for the EU market space, and Binance announced similar intentions as well. Although it has yet to follow through, while Kraken seized support for the privacy token Monero as well in the EU market spaces and Ireland as well, it continues to expand its footprint in the EU market space. The cryptocurrency exchanges have affirmed its stance on continuously delisting essentially Tether in Europe. Kraken has secured a virtual asset service provider registration in Spain and the Netherlands and an electronic money institution license in Ireland, demonstrating its commitment to growth and regulatory compliance in the region. So everybody is going to be delisting Tether because now it's a serious matter, because it was first OKX exchange and BitGet and all so on, and USDT didn't care. Tether CEO was very strong on his high horse. And after Coinbase announced yesterday they're going to be delisting USDT for European market space because of the MiCA regulations, Tether decided to get off their high horse and say, we're going to be thinking of a solution. The only way Tether is going to be able to get listed on the EU market space is if Tether creates an EU token, because USDT does not have the reserves it claims to have. Tether has never been transparent as a stablecoin. It's never been transparent. No single second they've ever been transparent. They've actually been fined once $14 million in the US courts for essentially lying about their reserves. A very long time ago, they were fined $40 million for lying about their reserves. So there's no hope in hell for Tether to show transparency to the EU market space to get approved for their USDT. The only chance Tether has is to create a whole nother stablecoin to get approved in the EU market space and actually have backings for it. Isn't that a bit, bit odd? Number one stablecoin in the whole world, and nobody's ever seen their reserves. Not a single person. No one's ever seen their reserves. Not one stablecoin in the world. That's the biggest reasoning why they're not going to list it on the EU market space, because the EU wants to see some of that reserve money. And Tether said, no, we're not going to be showing it to anyone. Nobody can tell us what we can do. Coinbase delist USDT announcement comes out yesterday. Tether comes out today. We're going to think of a solution. Sorry, Miles, but I'm just too up there with the corrupt governments, but no problem. What solution is there to think about? Just show your holdings. Exactly. You know, Miles, I still think that BRICS has the upper hand when they can use the new financial system with their own stablecoin. And since the US is delaying their currency advancing, what am I missing? One crucial factor. Okay. Freedom Feather, you said, so, you know, Miles, which I fully understand. So you said, you know, Miles, I still think BRICS has the upper hand when they can use the new financial system with their own stablecoins, and since the US is delaying their countries advancing. What am I missing? The US is delaying their own countries advancing on purpose. Not because they are against innovation. The US is not against innovation. They're not against essentially, in general, they're not against innovation. Sure, the US has a lot of corrupt politicians, but which country doesn't have corrupt politicians? Every country has corrupt politicians. But the US is on purpose sitting on the sidelines. On purpose, they're sitting on the sidelines. And regarding the BRICS essentially having their own payment system, their payment system is through the Bank of International Settlements, which, you know, there's a documentation for cross-border payments titled, you know, cross-border payments, public documentation. SWIFT is on that documentation on BRICS, on the Bank of International Settlements, but so is Ripple. And eventually, the number one payment system, and there was also a PDF documentation where SWIFT has done their reports on where XRP Ledger can be used also for a relay in terms of cross-border payments. There's a SWIFT PDF documentation about it. But putting all those to one side, look, what you're missing about that scenario is the world goes onto a new payment system, and it's going to be through the Bank of International Settlements because they run the show too when it comes to the centralized banks, 63 centralized banks, and even the BRICS nations are under them too. So world goes for a new payment system. It's a digital world now. What's the backbone of that digital world? It's going to be Ripple. What's Ripple? An American company. So even in the digital world, who runs the show? What you're missing is that, do you believe, even for a second, that the US is, you know, just wants to get left behind? For a second, just think to yourself. Just think to yourself, everybody think to yourself right now. The most advanced, the most powerful country in the world, who has a grip on every country, no matter what. Just think to yourself for a second. Would they purposely choose to get left behind and lose power? Just think to yourself. The US is the powerhouse. Their dollars rule the world. Their sanctions make countries scared because they're scared of getting sanctions. So it controls everything from A to Z. And you think this country is purposefully damaging itself so they can lose that control? Just think to yourself. They're sitting on the sidelines for a reason. The US is sitting on the sidelines for a reason. Not because they're trying to damage themselves to get left behind, because they'll never get left behind. It's the US we're talking about here. But the US is sitting on the sidelines for a fact. Now, we also have reached the endings of tonight's live show. So, if you enjoyed tonight's live show, hoping you did, drop a follow, drop a like, everyone. If you're watching this also for the first time ever, this is called the CMF live show. It stands for Crypto Miles Family. And, you know, on this live show, you can tune in every single night where I talk about the most recent things that's happening around the world in terms of cryptocurrencies, CBDCs, AI, politics, regulations. And we have reached the endings of tonight's live show as well. So drop a like, drop a follow. If you're watching us on X, drop a like, drop a follow, drop a retweet if you want to. And also, if you're watching us on YouTube, drop a like as well, drop a comment after the live show is done as well. And if you wonder who might be doing this live show, my name is Miles. I go by the persona of Crypto Miles. And this live is completely free for anybody to tune in every single night on X Live, on YouTube Live. This was episode 174. So, another great performance, Miles. Let's go, Scott. See you tomorrow sometime as usual. World would be much more better place without corruption. I agree. Ripple is US backed. Yep. Let's go. Thanks, Miles. Just wanted to hear that Ripple is the dominant worldwide. Let's go. Thanks, all plans. Let's go. Forever. Good night, Miles. Thank you, brother. See you tomorrow sometimes as usual. Good night, Miles and family. Great live. Many thanks. See you tomorrow. Ian, see you tomorrow sometimes. Ian, thanks so much for the donation today as well on tonight's live show. Mike, good night, Miles and CMF. See you tomorrow, Mike, brother, sometimes as usual. Scott, see you tomorrow sometimes as usual as well. Devil's advocate. US is corrupt and someone was paying someone off. Good night, everyone. BullXLP, see you tomorrow sometimes as usual. Great life. Take care, Miles and CMF. Take care, Ray. See you tomorrow sometimes as usual. All good things must come to an end, and they have right now. This is the endings of tonight's live show. I will be seeing everyone tomorrow, same time as usual. Everybody have a great day or a good night, depending on where you are around the world. CMF. Great life. Take care, Miles and CMF. See you tomorrow, Ray. Same time as usual. Count. See you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Free and forever. Good night, Miles. Great info. Thanks, Miles. Free and forever. See you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Ray, see you tomorrow. BullXLP, see you tomorrow. Scott, another great performance, Miles. The info was great. Let's go, Scott. Thanks, Miles. Stormy, see you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Last question. Ripple is a USA company, but they will work for the American interest or for Ripple? American interest. Cheers, Miles. Another great live as normal. Let's go, Addy. Let's go. See you tomorrow, sometimes as usual. Thank you, Miles. Scott, let's go. Good night, Miles, the CMF. Let's go. Often see you tomorrow, sometimes as usual. I'll be seeing everybody tomorrow, same timing as usual. Everybody have a great day or a good night, depending on where you are around the world. See everybody tomorrow, same time as usual.